Dewo, good morning and happy Mother's Day to all of you hardworking mothers. On behalf of Chiism, we hope that you have a wonderful day and that your family shower you with all the goodness that you deserve. Greetings and welcome to another episode of Chiism Live. I am your host, KDB Dr. Onyoha Usimiri. As always, it is my pleasure to introduce my co-host and troublemaker.
All right now.
You the Onyoha day.
No.
I'm fine.
Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to
you. Thank you. Yeah. And I also want to bring in our partner in crime today. I call him, I don't know if he knows that's what he is, but anyway, Nnamdi Osimiri. Welcome. You're a partner talking, chatting it up today. Thank you so much. So, people always ask me, where's the Nnamdi? I say, well, here he is today. Sir, at your disposal.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Nnamdi, thank you for your beautiful flowers. You see where I have it positioned right behind me. I love it. I'm getting so much love today. I've got flowers. I had breakfast made for me today by my husband, and I'm going to my daughter's house this afternoon, and she and Kalena and Matt. I don't know what they're planning, but I'm sure it will be good. So yes, I'm enjoying my Mother's Day, and I know that all the mothers out there are enjoying their Mother's Day. Certainly, we are sort of sad, obviously, because our mother is not here.
Yeah.
I just remember, calling her all the time and saying, Happy Mother's Day, Mom. But she's not here for me to say that too. But that's okay. She's here in spirit. We cherish all that she gave us. And she did the best she could with what she had to work with. And that's what any mother can do, the best you can. There's no perfection in motherhood, just a lot of love and time and caring. And so the topic of discussion today is an interesting one. And I chose it because of an experience that I had in Umuahia, Nigeria. There was a pregnant woman who came to my hotel, and she was in distress. She and her husband were in distress, and she needed some money. They had to travel back to Lagos, but they didn't have any money. And they came to ask me for money. And instinctively, I said, well, go to your church. St. Finbar's there. That's your church. Why don't you just go to them and ask them to support you? I mean, you're pregnant and all that. The husband says, well, we tried. I said, what do you mean you tried? And he says, well, they said they don't have any money to give me. And I thought that was really interesting. There is this spiritual or religious statement that most churches make, and that is, so as you give, so shall you receive. It seems to me that that lady was crying for the church to give so they can receive. But instead, she's coming to me. And that is the tragedy of a lot of churches. They proclaim, particularly the Christian faith, that they are here for the poor, and yet they take money from the poor to enrich themselves. Let me make something clear, however. There are many, many good churches out there who really, really care about their congregations, and also for the community as a whole. But there are many of them who take advantage of the poor. And we in religious organizations, we must speak out against that. I've seen too many poor people get poorer for joining a church. As a matter of fact, I was introduced to a church I was supposed to go to, and I just thought I could come to the church. But I was being asked to do this, to pay this, and pay that, and pay that. And I'm saying, why? I just want to come and pray with you. But if I didn't pay tithe, if I didn't give my money to the church, I could not become a real member. Well, here's my thought as far as Chiism is concerned, Global Faith Ministries of Chiism, which, let me remind you, is a ministry of the Godian religion. We have more of a focus on onyinye, to give. So when we say, when you give, so shall you receive, we really mean it. So that the principle, the foundational principle of what we do is to give. When you give, you receive. And I have found, and I'm sure you will agree with me, I've found that a lot of the people that we give money, or we give whatever, we give them food, as we use Onyinye to do, we get more love from them. There has not been any member of Chiism that will say that we ask them to give them money. I mean, we ask them to give us money. We do the opposite. We give. If we have it, we'll give. Now, about the only thing we may ask our members to do is, you pay membership dues if you want to be a member. And, like you say, you can't evangelize.
Yeah, without money.
So that when we ask for your membership dues, is to do some of the things that is necessary for us to serve you. When we serve the poor, when we feed the communities, we're taking that money that we're given, not for us to buy Porsche, not for us to, do you understand what I'm saying? Not for us to buy jet, but for us to help you. So to us, in our spiritual order, we believe, do not leave your brothers and sisters behind.
It's part of the tradition.
Chief tenet of religion. And it should not be this, give me so I can give. They just arrested a gentleman who gave $142,000 gift. Money that was earmarked for a building fund was used to buy a Porsche because he felt that it will make her safer. Now, let's talk about that. How does owning a Porsche make you safer? But this is the money that the poor have worked so diligently to give you because they trusted you. You said you needed a building fund. They give it to you and you buy a wife of Porsche. So anyway, that is our day. So I'm going to let one of you George, jump in as you so choose.
Well, every major faith or religious culture or tradition emphasizes giving to others, right? Particularly giving to those people in need. It's a universal thing. Christianism, Buddhism, Shintoism. It's all they're all involved. You find it in their theological writings, and it is understood that as a spiritual body, you have an obligation to give to the poor,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's well understood. But the problem is when it comes to, and I hate to do this, but I have to do it because I feel that we have to have a comparative analysis when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about these things. We have to make people understand why it is important to look inward. And what do I mean by looking inward? Let me explain that. The way I see it, and from the conversations and discussions that I have, it always seems that somehow there's this feeling, and I wouldn't call it an understanding, but there's this feeling that Africans, from their own cultural perspective or for themselves, are unable to do for themselves, right? It's sort of like if it, as an African body, as an African centered organization, the idea of helping the poor doesn't sound legitimate unless you want to help the poor from somebody else's cultural or spiritual perspective, religious perspective. Give an example. Beyond the religion thing, just a general perception of people of African ancestry. When Haiti had earthquake, one of their major musical musicians, artists,
Mm-hmm.
actually formed an organization trying to get some money to be able to help those people that were impacted by the earthquake.
That's right.
And he was totally, ostracized about that.
Mm.
The major organizations like the Red Cross and all that came after him. Not only that, Black folks came after him. But this is a guy from Haiti whose people have been impacted by this earthquake, who has this genuine need to help his people. He didn't need the money. He's a
That's
millionaire.
right.
He's a wealthy guy.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need the money.
Mm-hmm.
But he was ostracized not just by those other organizations that feel that if his credibility, stands out against all the criticism,
Mm-hmm.
that it reduces the amount of money that goes into the coffers.
Mm-hmm.
So they came after him.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing when you talk about African organizations trying to do something. Usually, the first people that come after you are Africans who are immersed in the spiritual philosophies of the European. And I'm not talking about the Muslim. That's a different thing altogether. We could have a conversation about Islam and the impact that Islam is having on people of African ancestry.
Well,
What?
why not? Why wouldn't you talk about it? I mean, we're
Well,
talking about
okay,
her.
let me bring that in. Let me
Yeah.
bring that in. Let me bring that in.
Let's see what they're doing.
I don't usually hear anywhere where Muslims are talking about feeding the hungry
Mm.
outside of their own encampment, if you understand what I mean.
Mm.
You don't see Muslims on TV telling you to put money in there for them to go help anybody. You just don't see that. When they ask within their organizations, within their mosque,
That's
within those people. They ask within. Maybe when you go into the mosque or something, you don't see them standing in the street with pamphlets telling you to give money to this church, give money to that church. You don't see that. You don't see it on TV. You don't see none of that. Now, they help the poor within their clique, within their organizations, within their mosque, whatever it is that they gather, and within other functioning organizations in Islam or within a particular Islamic mosque or entity that preaches the Quran as an overall guiding philosophy. You see that they have their communities, they do what it is that they can for their communities, but you don't see them on TV stepping on a pregnant woman's stomach. You don't see none of that kind of stuff.
oh my God, yeah.
Okay,
Mm.
you don't see. I'm not saying that they don't have things that they do. That is that's not spiritually, terrible. I'm not saying that because we know the story of people that use Islam as a tool for violence, right? It's all about control of resources, of people. People are resources. They do that. We understand that. But I'm talking about what is impacting people in Africa or in our African communities in a positive way in terms of helping the poor, feeding people that are in need, creating, educational institutions,
opportunities. That's what I'm not
opportunities
seeing.
where those same people that are making contributions to your church have access to, all the positive things that you're supposed to be doing, like the universities that they build in Nigeria, where the same people that help build it cannot afford to attend it, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
build it, then the tuition is so high that only those people that have money can attend it.
And
It's a totally different conversation. The point I'm trying to make is for Africans, or people of African ancestry, to really start
you want to say the African churches, quite frankly, they are the ones devastating. Let's not,
Of course, that's
what
what I'm getting to. That's what I'm getting to.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. They're the ones, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, we had a conversation about the magical powers of Chineke. And I think people really need to kind of dive deep into this to understand it. God's blessings to convince somebody that God is powerful usually involves some kind of spiritual magic. In Christianism, Jesus walked on water, fed 5,000 people with a loaf of bread or whatever, turned water into wine, Daniel in the stomach of a whale, and somebody in the lion's den, I think it's Daniel in the lion's den, and all that. All these magical things to convince people that God is so powerful. In African churches, you have preachers trying to do the same thing that they claim that Christ did, to convince you to put money in their coffers.
But why are we so gullible? Come on, there is an African proverb that says, I don't know how to say it properly, so I better not go there. But in a sense, what it's saying is, if your fruit, by the roadside, the thief will see how beautiful you are, right? And they'll pluck it. Okay, but you also have to tell the truth. Don't be so nice, so that the thief will not see you and pluck you. Okay, so we as a people, yes, these people with all these shining promises, shiny objects, yeah,
show me something shiny.
Yeah, they show you something shiny. They promise you heaven
Magical.
and earth, and then you accept that. But you cannot blame them. I always say it. Don't blame people for what they do to you when you allow it to be done to you. We are just as, I know people are gullible when mentally, they're maybe poverty. Poverty certainly causes a lot of dependence on others, or vulnerability, right? So you've got a lot of vulnerable people, and you promise them all these, you're gonna get wealthy because Jesus said, or in the blood of Jesus and all that kind of stuff. And when people are desperate enough, they're willing to believe anything.
Also, keep in mind that
finish this thought. They are willing to believe anything. When we have strangers come onto our shores and do that to our people, we need to certainly denounce that and fight against it. But when our own people are doing it to our own people, what do you do then?
The people doing it are just
you can't blame other people now. We are the ones doing it. Then what do we do? How do we stop the abuse of the poor in the name of religion?
First of all,
the silence of the people contributes to all of that.
Well, we have to talk. We have to do what we're doing right now. Me, you, Namdi. We have to have forums where we discuss these things. Now, keep in mind, these same people that we see that are vulnerable right now. This just didn't start today. It started with the Great Passage. It started with the Muslims enslaving over 40 million Africans, right? In the Middle East. It started with colonization, slavery. It started with all that. There was this incessant strategy to remove what is yours and supplant it with something else. And it went
Something
from
else.
one generation to another, to another, to another. So when you come to 2021, or the current date or whatever we are right now, you
Yeah.
have people that are already groomed to accept these kinds of things, and you don't have institutions in Africa that have this counter education to
Yes. Yeah.
combat that.
Mm.
So, because you don't have institutions that are established in Africa that tries to combat this negative influence or this foreign influence, because children from the day they are born are not educated to be an African in their mindset,
Mm.
gullibility rules the
Mm.
day.
We will today. You
It just
know.
rules the day, and that's the problem we're having right now, where it is necessary for us to try to re-educate our people and insist that we are heard. We have to continue to talk about it. If you reach just one person, that's good enough. That same person will try to reach somebody else. And if you have comparative analysis so that our people can actually see how detrimental this foreign religious influence is to the upward mobility of the African, then maybe we will have enough courage to start asking questions in the hopes that we may change our condition.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Now, Anam, do you want to contribute to this conversation?
Yes. I kind of look at, if I can be 100% honest and just as blunt as possible, I look at the Christian faith in the black community like policing in the black community.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I mean you have individuals, a force, therefore the Christian church being pushed as if they're actually serving the community when they're actually doing more harm. And they're doing it on camera. They're giving false hope and at the same time providing a mentality that is destroying that community, and the community is still buying it. When you have those individuals that are actually trying to expose those things, there's not enough individuals because the force is so strong, so to speak. They have, just like the police have unions, you have the Vatican. They can say, do whatever it is that they want. And for any individual that is guilty of doing more harm than good, when it's wrapped up, just like with the police, when it's wrapped in the blue and that shiny little emblem, just like the church, when it's wrapped up in that little collar,
Mm.
or in Jesus's name, amen, that means absolutely they can get away with anything.
Mm.
And when it comes down to it, I'm not one to just go ahead and just slander an individual's faith, because when it comes down to it, if you believe something, you believe something. If you are steadfast in what you believe, then you're steadfast in what you believe. The thing is, you also have to understand a way to be able to break away from generational programming and do research yourself. If the faith that you believe in is doing more harm to the community than good, you might want to ask some questions. When it's not doing what it's supposed to do, when it comes down to social change, social injustices, you might want to look into it. If you're ostracizing other groups of individuals that are in your community based off of their ethnicity, their sex, and other things, you might want to look into it, because it's not living up to what it's supposed to mean, what it's practicing, or what it's preaching.
Mm.
If an organization, a faith-based organization, or a faith itself is not living up to what it says in those books. And I mean from the smallest churches to the biggest mega churches. If it is not supporting the individuals that are hurting, then you might want to look into the faith that you're practicing. And you might just want to look into the church that you're going to. Because if it requires you to also have a 401k in order to go to that church, that might be a problem.
There's a problem with that. Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm looking at these churches. You're talking about some of the largest organizations, largest churches. They do not pay taxes. So churches do not pay taxes.
Mm.
What are you doing with all that tax-free money?
Yeah.
And if all that tax-free money is only going to the building fund, when the person that's preaching in the pulpit is rolling around and pulling up in the newest Benzes, Bentleys, and Beamers, you might want to start asking them questions. Because the more I start to think about it, the more I start to look, I start looking at it like this. Okay, you're giving individuals with a specific level in a tax bracket access to your church, but you're not giving those individuals that don't have the means to be able to live like that. You're not giving them the ability to actually come into the church and worship. Now, my thing is, you say, God allows you, or God says that you are supposed to live this way. Okay, then everybody should live that way, right? So I'm just going to go straight from us talking about it to start asking the church to implement a few things. Okay, here we go. As many times as these Christian churches have their services, Monday, this, the Bible study, all that, and then when Sunday rolls around, that's when you actually start asking individuals, you start spreading the word, and then you start asking for tithes, just like it was stated. You can't evangelize without money. I understand that. At the same time, for those individuals that don't have it, if you're bleeding them dry, if you're actually taking every dollar that they had, why don't you see it as an investment into them then? When they come in and they're giving those donations, why don't you do a couple things? And this is to the church. These are the individuals that are actually, since we need to be providing solutions. So anybody in the church, I hope you're watching this, pastor, whatever. I hope you're watching this. Implement this. It might not be so good for your bottom line, but this might actually help the people that are actually watching this as well, that begin to question the faith. Why isn't your church actually giving you tax incentives or offering you ways to invest your money? Why is it Monday is Bible study, but they don't have an investment class? Why don't they have a means for real estate, to be able to teach you real estate in ways in order for you to be able to flip your money? If you come in and you donate $20, you give tithes $20 or $100, then 40% of what you give will also be flipped into a pot for you to be able to, at the end of the month or the end of the year, this money will go towards an investment for your home or for your business or for something like that. Why aren't the churches doing this? Why aren't churches offering ways for you to be able to make more money to give to the church? If you're not living in opulence, just like these pastors are, don't ask these individuals for more than they can give so they can try and buy their way into heaven. Why don't you try and help them create means of create a way to make heaven on earth for themselves, rather than waiting until they die to see some pearly gates?
Okay, that's it right there.
I can't even say, you know what? Check this out. Nnamdi just got me going right now, man. Homeboy just hit it. My nephew is cold. I mean, I'm loving it. You're hitting it on the money. But here's something people don't understand. There has never, I try to share information that most people don't think about because it helps people to understand the core of a problem. There has never been a separation of church and state. You mentioned about the tax incentives and all that stuff. There has never been a separation, of church and state. All human systems are products of religion. And a specific human system, which is politics and religion, make strange bedfellows. Let me explain. Politics also involves civil laws, civic laws. Civic laws are designed to control human behavior.
Mm.
Religion is also designed to control human behavior.
Mm.
Both of them have to be married to get the maximum control of humans. So the government gives these spiritual organizations incentives for control. Not only incentives for control, but also incentives that help the political parties or political systems or politicians to garner votes from the masses by making sure, like sheep, they're headed, like a herder. You herd the sheep into this particular encampment or enclosure, so that they are controlled. This is why politics gives incentive to religious organizations, because they need them to further control the masses.
Mm-hmm.
So it shouldn't shock anybody that all over the world, whether you're Buddhist, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian, doesn't matter where you are, the dominant religion is married to politics or the leadership of that country, because they help the leadership to further control the people. That is why it is difficult, or you see that the government doesn't really get involved in religious matters unless the laws have been blatantly subversed or broken before they get involved. You understand? So in Africa, Muslims do whatever the heck they want to do. The preachers do whatever they want to do, step on people's stomach, raping young women, have access to wives. They do whatever it is that they want to. They even convince the congregation to vote for a particular candidate, and they do it. People have been prepped through colonization, through slavery. The European left Africa, but left their institutions behind to make sure that they continue to control us up here. So this control makes itself known in our politics, in our churches, all designed to control you. And you are always shocked when we sit here watching a video of a pastor raising somebody from the dead outside in a coffin with people around screaming hallelujah. And you're saying to yourself, are you trying to tell me that these people don't know that this is fake?
But that's what I'm saying. When a person, you're right, when people are consumed by their condition in the world, they're willing to accept anything. And that's sad. They are responsible. I actually feel that we the people, so to speak, need to stand up and see the lies, that are being told to us. But it's like you said, it's generational.
This
And it's so
generation.
difficult to get out of it
Mm.
when the community, when the society leadership are not putting anything in place, because they are in bed with the churches themselves. So why make people knowledgeable, if you can take advantage of their ignorance? And
Yeah.
that is where we are now. If you look at some churches in Europe right now, many churches in Europe are dying. Why are they dying? Because people are not buying what they're selling anymore. But here's the interesting thing, is that they go to Africa and get the people to fill those pews. Why are we targeted? That's the question I have for you and you, Namdi. Why are we African people targeted to fill the pews that the Europeans are leaving behind? Why? Answer that question for me.
Well, one reason, and I'm sure Namdi has, as usual, very, very eye-opening, perspective to some of this question. First of all, we have been prepped for a long time, right? It's generational. Secondly, we don't have any institutions, educational or otherwise, that promotes anything that is relevant or culturally relevant to you. Those institutions are gone, right? It's sort of like going into war with a knife where the enemy has a gun. Okay? You can only do so much before you get shot, because the weaponry that you have is not comparable to what the enemy is coming at you with. We don't have these institutions. I'll give you an example. When I talk about having institutions, let's say capital city of Abuja. When you go in there, one of the buildings, or one of the, I'll just say buildings that you see there that catches your eye, is a giant mosque. And then you turn to your right, there's a big giant cathedral there. Both of them promoting philosophies that are not primordial to you. There's hardly anywhere that you go to Africa and find a big place of worship that represents who you are, that glorifies Chineke, that glorifies the Creator from your own cultural perspective. You don't have an educational system that promotes any African-centered way of thinking, that makes you have pride in who you are, your history, and your contribution to civilized behavior. You don't have any defense mechanism that allows you to question the injustice and the con game that you see around you, happening around you. You are made, some people ostracize members of their family who have enough courage to question this craziness that is going on around them, this spiritual injustice that is happening, who is questioning, why are these preachers taking advantage of its congregation? Who in government dares to say that we should be African-centered in our thinking, both spiritually and otherwise? Who in government, remember, government and religion, they go hand in hand. Strange bedfellows. Who in a position of authority is willing to promote African-centered way of thinking in the hopes that you raise a generation that knows itself, that has pride in what is African, that understands the contributions that we've made in all areas of human endeavor, from politics to philosophies to science. Where in Africa do you have institutions that give its citizens a sense of pride, a sense of history? African history is not just about slavery and colonization. We go way beyond that. What's African history about 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago? Did we just start talking about African history when the Muslims started selling Africans as slaves, or when the European came to Africa to pluck us to the Americas, or when they came to Africa and colonized it? Where does our history start? If we don't have leadership or institutions that promote African-centered way of thinking, if we don't have institutions of higher learning, not just higher learning, but all the way from kindergarten, that teaches you something about who you are as an African and gives you a sense of selves that allows you to question these injustices and the reason why these preachers and institutions are taking advantage of us Africans, we're going to have a problem. We need to be able to question these things without believing that if you question it, you're going to go to hell. We have to understand that heaven is right here on earth. It is
You
your
know,
right as a human being to question.
the question, and people just don't. People seem to think that being intelligent is punishment. Asking questions.
Yes.
You know, there's a song that says, uh, um, oh gosh, what is that song that emphasizes that you trust and obey?
Yeah, I remember
And
that one.
obey. There's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. You know, in other words, just trust whatever you're told,
That's
obey
it.
whatever
Don't
you're
question.
told. You know, don't question anything. You know, just believe. I want to hear your thoughts about why we're being used, Nandi.
Out everything that was stated was absolutely right on the head. It's generational. We've been programmed, we've been primed, we've been basically been put in position to carry the mantle of our programming, so to speak. Like one of the things that I saw a while ago, I found this really interesting, but I had a friend that posted an image and a comment on, I think it was on Instagram. It had an image of a Bible, and then there was an image of a library full of books. Just one of the largest libraries in, I think, the world. And under the caption, it pointed to the Bible, and it said, "This is the only book I need to read. The only book that matters." And I was perplexed. Only because it doesn't match up to what is preached. It doesn't make sense. If you're talking about the vastness, the omnipotence, the universal power that whatever we were created in the image of, whatever created us, whatever created the world, whatever created Adam and then created Eve, would give you access to all this knowledge, but for some reason would hold you to a 300-page book and say, this is what matters. We're programmed. We are programmed. There's no other way of getting around it. We're programmed. And the thing is, the steps have been taken to make sure that we remain that way. My younger sister, stated this years ago. She was probably about 14 or 15. This is how you know when, I don't know if it's just the Chiist in her or it's just the common sense that's running through her mind, even at that age. She said that the only way for us as Black people, the best way to get Black people something good is to dip it in gold. It's the same way around. Like, in order for us as a people to be able to accept who we are, for some reason, it seems as if it has to be dipped in some image of opulence for us to pay attention. At the same time, it's the same way around. You can take the chains that we had around our necks and around our wrists and our ankles when they're rusted and ironclad, and be angry about that and be sad and recognize that. And you can have a whole month where the Europeans will identify that as being where our history started or what our history was. And for some reason, if you dip that in gold, we accept that chain around our neck, especially when the church utilized that as one of the forms of colonization. So it's generational. Yet they just took it, dipped it in gold, and said, hey, you guys take it. It's yours now. so we're supposed to accept that without recognizing that this was a means and a tool of colonization. Not to mention, we are the greatest resource that not only the church, but the European structure has ever had access to. Because us as the people, when you tap into this, you tap into this. When you tap into this, you tap into everything that we have access to, which is the land, the resources. But then when you access us and you control us, you're able to control this, you're able to control us, you're able to make sure that we do anything and everything that not only that power structure wants, but also whatever was implemented for us to continue to make sure that that structure thrives and continues to thrive for generations. If you make sure that the mother, and I'm saying this because no disrespect to women whatsoever, this has nothing to do with sex, but I'm just saying, who is there when the child is born? The mother. The mother is the first thing that the child sees. Therefore, the mother is the first thing to implement what they see and deem as necessary for the child's survival and growth. If you instill that slave mentality in the mother, guess what the mother's going to do? Implant that slave mentality into the child.
That's it. That's why it's generational.
Generational.
That's why it's generational. And that's it. Mothers should be held to account, and we all should be held to account. But like you said, if you want a child who asks questions, who's knowledgeable, not somebody who regurgitates other people's ideas and thoughts and philosophies, then you yourself must be willing to do research so you can share with the child what it means to find out information yourself. Then when you tell the child trust and obey, that's exactly what they will do. They will take from what mama said, mostly what mom said, because like I said to people, the first God the child knows is the mother. So what you're feeding your child is what they are going to believe. That's their world. You're setting their worldview. And if you set their worldview to believe, first of all, that God doesn't look like them, and you have it on your wall, and they see that every day, or that the angels don't look like them, and they start to look down on anything that looks like themselves. It is imperative, you said it, it is imperative for mothers to pause and think about what roles they're playing as the people who shape the whole view of their little one. You be careful what your worldview is. I think one of the things that the church has done very wrong is they have forgotten the very principle, particularly those who are Christians, that Jesus laid down. And that is, when you do for the least of these, you do for me. When you look at Nigeria or Ghana or the United States or wherever, and you see the poor in the street, and we pass them by, it says a lot about us, not the suffering, but us. When you see now, I'm not saying that all of us have money, we don't always have money to give away at will, But for me, if I'm eating a hamburger, what is it? You can get a hamburger for $1 at McDonald's. I will pick up an extra one. If I'm living around where there are hungry people and I have the means, my spirituality will tell me that I have to share. You have to give. This coming week, our show is going to be very interesting. We have a representative in Nigeria, Ukunna Charles, who does a Chiism on the beat. He's going to go out in the community. I'll give him a call and remind him, and so that we can get started on that. What I want him to do is to go to the marketplace. Look at some of these children who are selling bananas. Some of those kids don't even make as much as 1,000 naira per day. That's if they're lucky. They stay out of school because they have to help their parents with money. So what we are going to do is we are going to challenge the Onyinye project to find some of these kids, find about 10 little people who are sending bananas. And we're going to keep doing that, or peanuts, whatever they're sending, and buy up whatever they have for that day so they can go home. They can go home and be children, at least for that one day. Do you understand? Does that make sense, UD? We need to show children. We need to show our people that they matter.
We need to always.
You know, when you see our children in the streets and suffering, and we're driving our Porsche, our Range Rovers, and all of that, and they are crouching around our window, and we're beating them up and saying, "Get away, get away!" We don't see people. We see nuisance. We don't do what the church says for us to do, and that is to treat people with dignity and respect and help those who are in need. This is what Godianism is about. This is what our ministry, Global Ministry of Chiism, is trying to do. To see the humanity in our fellow human beings and touch that humanity by giving them something that they can use to make their lives better. I haven't asked, I don't know about you, but I know I haven't asked anybody to pay tithes. I haven't asked anybody to give me anything. But we raise money ourselves to do what it is our spirituality says.
Yeah.
I am one with the Creator. And if I'm one with the Creator, that means my fellow human being is one with the Creator. My job is to show the Creator, Chineke, that I honor and respect the presence of that spirit in another human being by what I do to my fellow man. This whole notion of
there's reverberation when you're speaking. I don't know if it's
is it
somebody's
me?
cell phone or something
I think
that is on.
okay, just a minute. Can you still hear that?
Now it's better.
Okay, I think it's coming from Namdi.
Okay.
Namdi, the noise is coming from you.
It might be a computer is open.
Yeah,
or something.
It may be something. Maybe your computer is open or something because
I don't have anything. It's okay.
All right. So, but anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that we in Chiism, Global Faith Ministries of Chiism, we believe very strongly that our blessing comes when the people around us are blessed.
Yes.
I mean, I really don't know how much joy I get when somebody writes me and says, "Thank you, Dr. Simmery. I needed this to feed my children today." But I don't ask you to give me anything. I've been blessed. I can feed myself. I have a good roof over my head. You know, I'm not a beggar, you know. So my blessings keep coming back to me in how my own life takes shape. Do you understand? But sometimes I do strictly believe is that, like our program says, as you give, so shall you receive. But this is where the churches have gone wrong. They are not giving. They are just receiving. Namdi, you seem like you have something to say.
Yeah, I really don't see. My thing is it wrong to actually request tithes? Is it wrong to request funds? No, I think just like you said. So what you give, so shall you receive. I think there has to be an equal level of value, if not more value. And I think that's what Chiism does. They give more value than what is required of an individual to give, or at least we expect as Chiists, we expect individuals to be able to give as much as we receive. So that equal level of value is actually what is upheld. And I think, you know, just like it was stated before, in order to evangelize, you need money in order to evangelize. Now, the thing is, we're not trying to convince individuals of anything. I don't see this belief system as trying to convince anyone of anything. I believe that Chiism is actually providing uh, uh, more than what a lot of other organizations, or should I say religious groups, are doing beyond just providing aspects of faith. I think Chiism actually is upholding ourselves to a higher standard,
That's right.
and looking for individuals that look like us to
That's right.
actually say, we're not trying to convince you of your greatness. We're not trying to convince you of who you are and what you were created to be.
Mhm.
We're just trying to point it out. And
So
with
that
us
you
pointing
can
that out, then
make it a part of your daily
yeah,
living.
you make
You
it
know?
you make it a part of your daily giving, just as you said.
Yeah.
So I believe that it I believe, Uncle, I believe you stated one time, um, this was a while ago. I believe this was during a service where you said, man man is God to his fellow man. When you have
Yeah.
individuals that look up and ask
Yes.
uh, for for a dollar,
Yes.
you don't expect the dollar to just fall from the sky.
That's
But
right.
if you say, you know, you ask for help, and then you
Yes.
go to a friend and you say, hey, I need a little bit of help with this. If that individual sees it within themselves to be able to give to you, then your prayer was answered.
That's right.
Interesting thing is, what you manifest, you went to an individual
Mhm.
next to you, or you just went to a stranger, and that stranger had the ability to give, then that means that individual is upholding the essence of creation,
That's right.
Mhm.
that, along with yourself, because you had to put that energy out there. Therefore, someone close to you or someone that you don't know was able to manifest what it is that you were looking for,
That's right.
because they found your need as
Yes.
something that they could help with.
I can help
I,
with.
I think
Absolutely.
one of the problems is the church is providing that false sense of, if you just continue to pray and look up, then all of your blessings will come down without you putting in the effort to try and do it yourself, or for us to try and actually do it for you.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
know, it's more of a, we can give you the words that'll make you feel good for that day,
Mhm.
but whatever other struggles you have going on,
Come back next Sunday.
come back next Sunday. Yeah, yeah,
Get,
you know what I'm saying? It's
get
like,
another shot.
we got you. I got you. I'll be able to give you your blessings, but not right now because service is over. You know, it's like where we need to, number one, understand as Africans that there is a belief system, and it's nothing new. There is a belief system that actually recognizes you as being a essence or a aspect of creation.
That's right.
Therefore, you have the ability to see your own as an aspect of creation and something that is connected to something higher than you that looks like you or resembles you.
Yes. Thank you.
See the God within yourself, therefore you'll see the God in everyone else.
That's right. You cannot, and that's why you cannot say. People need to rephrase that. Do unto others as you want, or no,
Chineke.
yeah, do unto others as you want others to do unto you. It all depends on. I can't do unto you if I don't love myself, so what I do unto you may not be very, very good for you. So we
Right.
say, do unto others as you want Chineke to do unto you, because you want God to be loving, Chineke to be loving. You want all the goodness in the world coming from, that source of inspiration. So if you feel that way, if you have that kind of relationship, that kind of thought pattern, that's what you will have for others. But if you don't like yourself, if you think your being African is wrong, there's no way you're going to see an African and love them as well. Yudi?
Yeah. Madu Buchi. Yeah.
Yes, we're
You
good.
are like God, your fellow human beings,
That's right.
because most, if not of all, God's blessings flow through somebody else to
That's right.
you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Madu Buchi Bear is very important that those people that are listening to us understand that anything beyond God's blessing flowing from somebody else to you is what we call a miracle. The impossible just happened. So the dollar bill actually fell from the sky. Or you are walking and then you found a bag on the side of the road and it had $1 million in it.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of ball game. Faith-based call to care for others, to seek justice, especially, for those people that are less, that are having difficulty, has motivated, dramatic social change, through the centuries, right? And has called for us to care for one another throughout history. There's nothing new about giving. In Africa, during the New Yam Festival, a day before the New Yam Festival, it is okay for you to go to your neighbor's barn and gather as much food material, yams, as you possibly can for your family without anybody accusing you of stealing. It was part of the annual giving spiritual ceremony. It was part of the New Yam Harvest Festival. It was a way to say, if your harvest was not plentiful this year, you are welcome to anybody's farm in the village and get as many yams as you possibly can eat, as long as they have the excess to give. Giving is part of our spirituality. Giving is part of African culture. Giving was not invented by the European or the Arab. We didn't need the church to give and help our people. We didn't need the Muslims to come to help us help our people. We were helping our people before they came to our shores with the Bible or the Quran. Giving is part of African culture, and we have to go back to it and not look at giving as something that is foreign to us, as something that was brought to us, as a spiritual teaching that was never present in our spiritual philosophies or the way that we looked at each other. Giving is special, but it crosses all cultural boundaries. Every culture in this world spiritually is taxed with helping those people in need. It is said that religion is a way of keeping the poor from killing the rich. And I believe that. But I also believe that if you spread prosperity and those people that are underprivileged or feel less than, or those people that are being hungry, if you help them to put food in their stomach, that is a better instrument for peace than telling them that their blessing does not exist here on earth, that the only way they're going to be blessed is when they die.
That's right.
Because nobody has ever come from the heavens
To
to the
tell.
earth to tell me that there's a pearly gate for real.
Oh, well, the movies have done that. Hollywood.
Yeah, well, yeah, they've done
Hollywood.
that. That's for sure.
All
But
right.
that's what I have to say on the topic.
We could talk forever. I just want to make this quick note to our viewers out there. Chiism is not interested in putting down anybody's spiritual path. That
No.
is not our thrust. That is not what our thrust. It's not what we're talking about here. But if you will be honest with yourself, you will admit that our spiritual way of life has been bastardized over the years. And when you don't speak up against injustice, then you deserve the injustice and you will stay in justice. There's nothing that you're saying about leaving what you believe in. If it serves you and serves the community, but you have to also be sensible enough to ask questions. What is this doing to my people? What is this doing to me? It doesn't mean that you cannot wine and dine a Christian or a Muslim or Buddhist or whomsoever, but you must be careful what is being put in your own wine. If the objective is to sedate you so you don't ask questions, if the objective is to sedate you so that you don't see the evil being done to you and your people, then unfortunately, you are always going to be someone else's football. And your community and society will never grow. But as a matter of fact, ultimately, we will be taken advantage of, and other people will fill the slot that we refuse to fill. My dear brothers and sisters of African descent, this message is for you. We are not talking about what they are doing to us. We're talking about what we are doing to ourselves by refusing to see what's going on around us, by keeping a blind eye on the suffering of our people. Then we, not the strangers on our shores, are the culprits for poverty to remain in Africa. Ask questions. Only then can you find answers. Thank you so much for joining us today on Chiism Live. We look forward to seeing you again next week. I want to thank you, Otraja, Yudi, on your behalf for your words of wisdom. You're always full of it. Thank you so much, Namdi. You are priceless. I salute you. I want to thank Nosferatu, Inna Charles, Matt Lewis. I want to thank Besh Obataye, Cynthia Augustine. That's those that type something. I'm sure there are others. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again. Yeah, guys. Oh, before we end, I just want to take a moment again and wish my mother a very spiritual Mother's Day.
Yeah. Happy Mother's Day, no.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day, Mom. And also,
You need to rest in
Ahain
perfect peace.
Onyoha, the founder of
Yeah.
Godiasis.
Same.
Wherever he is, we know he's watching over us. And I do believe he's proud of everything that we have been doing, to promote the vision of Godianism, and also promote Global Faith Ministries and Chiism as a worthy arm of Godian
Yeah.
religion. Thank you so very much, everyone. Have a blessed Mother's Day.
Yeah, guys. Yeah.
That's it.
All right.